After the collapse of FTX, everyone's been asking, which exchanges are safe to use? Well, I researched the top 14 crypto exchanges, and in this video, I'll share with you everything that I found. I won't give any ratings though, because let's be real, FTX would have likely gotten a high rating before its collapse. So instead, I'll share my pros and cons of each exchange and put everything out there for you to evaluate. Alright, let's start with the big one, Coinbase. In terms of pros, Coinbase is a publicly traded company in the US, which means they're subject to strict regulation. They put out detailed financial information for everyone to see, and their disclosures show that they are 100% solvent with zero risk of a bank run. They're also audited by a Big Four accounting firm, so you can trust that their information is right. In terms of security, Coinbase has an immaculate track record. They've never been hacked, and their security systems are among the best in the world. No joke, it'd probably be harder to hack Coinbase than it would be to rob Fort Knox. Now in terms of cons, the only thing that I could find is that some of their employees got charged with insider trading of some smaller altcoins. But this doesn't really have anything to do with safety and security. So I still consider Coinbase one of the safest exchanges out there. Next, let's turn to another heavy hitter, Binance. In terms of pros, Binance is the biggest exchange in the world and has a veteran CEO leading the way. While size doesn't necessarily mean they're safe, Binance does make a ton of profits, and they put a significant portion of that into their Seifu fund. Their Seifu fund is pretty much insurance to protect user assets, and at time of shooting, it has $1 billion in it that anyone can verify on chain. Now another pro is that Binance pretty much kicked off this proof of reserves movement after FTX collapsed. This is good for our industry, and I'm glad they're leading the way. However, not everything is rosy for Binance, because I also found several cons during my research. For example, some Twitter detectives found on-chain evidence that Binance holds user funds and corporate funds in the same wallets, and that's not good. To be fair, this does not mean they are insolvent, but it does mean that we can't easily tell if they have enough to cover user deposits. We'd have to trust them and their auditor's words, which is not ideal. Another con is that Binance has experienced multiple hacks in the past, which is probably why they created the Seifu fund in the first place. Also, they've been iffy with regulation for their entire existence. They've moved from China to Japan to Malta to the Cayman Islands, and they've often clashed with regulators in their new locations. No one can say for sure where Binance is headquartered, and that's kind of shady in my opinion. Finally, they have their own exchange coin BNB, which may be a highly correlated risk factor for them, just like FTT was for FTX. For example, BNB makes up around 35% of their Seifu fund, so if the price of BNB crashed, that would reduce their ability to protect their users. A lot of this is hypothetical though, so please don't take this as me trying to FUD Binance. Instead, just keep these potential concerns in mind if you use them. Next, we got KUCOIN, a popular exchange that many people use to buy altcoins. One pro is that they plan on releasing a Merkle tree proof of reserve soon, and by the time you're watching this, it may already be out. Another pro is that even though they were hacked in the past, the team was able to recover most of the affected funds, and insurance covered the rest, so users didn't lose anything. Now on the con side, the fact that they were even hacked is a concern. They're also known for their loose KYC policies, which tells me they are more fly-by-night than some of the other exchanges. Also, KUCOIN still offers high-yield lending products, which is something that everyone is skeptical of after the collapse of BlockFi and Celsius. If you don't know where the yield is coming from, you are most likely the yield. Overall, I recommend not keeping too much on KUCOIN. You can use them to buy altcoins that you can't find elsewhere, but you should transfer it to your own wallet ASAP. Next, we got Kraken, an exchange I've used for a long time. There are a lot of things to like about them. For one, they already had Merkle tree proof of reserves long before FTX collapsed, so that just shows you how responsible they are. Also, they're highly regulated and available to most US residents. And they have a great track record. They've never been hacked throughout their 11-year existence. They keep user assets in cold storage and USD funds and bank accounts that are fully backed. Now in terms of cons, I just wish that their proof of reserves are done more frequently and for all their coins instead of just the major ones. I mean, to be fair, the smaller coins probably make up a tiny percentage of their overall customer funds, but still, Ideally, they would do it for everything. Either way, Kraken is still a very safe exchange, and I'm a big fan of their responsible approach to running things. Next, we got Crypto.com, an exchange that's famous for their basketball stadium and their crypto debit cards. In terms of pros, I like how their CEO has been super transparent and has shared initial information on their exchange wallets. They also plan on releasing a fully audited proof of reserves soon. In terms of custody, they use Ledger's Vault technology for cold storage, and they have $750 million worth of insurance for their assets there. They also survived a mini bank run recently when all the FUD was spreading on Twitter, and they never had to close withdrawals during that whole time, which is good to see. Now, in terms of cons, they've made a couple of operational mistakes before. For example, they accidentally sent an Australian woman millions of dollars and had to sue her to get that back. Also, when they posted their exchange wallets, someone noticed that they sent over $400 million in ETH to Gate.io. Now, that turned out to be an accident and they were able to get all of it back, but that kind of mistake should have never happened in the first place. Besides those mistakes, Crypto.com has also been hacked before in early 2022, which is never good to see. They also have their own coin, which could be a highly correlated risk factor. Furthermore, based on their job listings, it looks like they have an internal trading team, which makes me wonder if they're doing something similar to Alameda and FTX. Now, to be fair, I don't know the true nature of their trading team, but it is a question that's worth asking. Now, before we get to our next exchange, I gotta share a personal story with you. Back in 2018, I lost thousands of dollars on one of these exchanges, but it was my own fault. I clicked on a link that installed a malicious Chrome extension, and hackers were able to access my exchange account and drain my ETH. Thankfully, I was able to recover from that, but it taught me a valuable lesson. I needed to strengthen my online security and use a range of tools to protect myself. For example, one such tool would definitely be Guardio. I've mentioned them before in the past, and if you haven't signed up yet, you should do it ASAP. All it takes is one wrong click to install a malicious extension or access a phishing site. And Guardio provides comprehensive protection, such as blocking harmful sites and warning you when your identity leaks so you can take quick action. So yes, if I had been using Guardio back then, I wouldn't have lost anything. Now, Guardio's team is also constantly improving their product to keep users safe from the latest crypto scams, such as this MetaMask phishing scam, as well as this one that I'm showing on the screen right now. Guardio blocks 100 times more sites, 10 times faster than their competitors. So you gotta use them to avoid all these crypto scams popping up these days. Their premium tier is super affordable, and you can use my link below to get 50% off your first month. They also have a business version if you want to get this for your whole team. So if you're serious about security, then go to guard.io/coinsider, links below in the description. Alright, back to exchanges, and the next one is Gate.io, a smaller exchange with Chinese origins. In terms of pros, they claim to be the first exchange to do a third-party, user-verifiable proof of reserves. That's of course good to see. However, some people have raised concerns about the proof of reserves. For example, people noticed that they received a large amount of ETH from Crypto.com before one of their audit snapshots. So people thought that they were colluding to fake their audit. But if we take a closer look, we see that their audit happened before they received the ETH. So that was a false alarm. Now, another con is that Gate.io tried to hide a $230 million hack that happened to them back in 2018. They were called out about it by ZachXBT, but they never really addressed it. Additionally, their approach to regulation is inconsistent at best. For example, different parts of their website say different things about which countries can use them. Either way, I wouldn't personally use Gate.io, but they aren't the worst that I've seen. Next, we have Bitfinex, an exchange that I've used in the past before they stopped serving US residents. On the pros side, they show all of their 135 wallet addresses on GitHub, and the vast majority of their user funds are held in cold storage. Also, they've endured a rough history since they were founded in 2012, full of hacks, fines, and other issues, so they're quite resilient to say the least. On the con side, there's no insurance for your coins or fiat currencies on their platform. They also faced that massive hack back in 2016 when someone stole over 100,000 BTC. Now, to be fair, they did make their users whole by creating their own debt token, but still, big hacks are never a good sign for an exchange. Bitfinex is also the sister company to Tether, which has been under investigation by the government for many years, so they have some risk through this connection. Overall, I think Bitfinex is fine, but I definitely wouldn't keep too much on there. Next, we have Huobi, another exchange with Chinese origins. In terms of pros, they already completed a proof of reserves audit when they were getting bought out earlier this year. But that was private, so they plan on doing a public one with a third-party audit as well. Also in 2019, they started a user protection fund with over 20,000 BTC, which I believe is still active. Furthermore, Huobi has never been hacked, and the company that bought them out is owned by Justin's son, so if they ever needed a bailout, he could do it with his deep pockets. Now, there are some cons to consider too. For example, some people noticed 10,000 ETH leaving Huobi's wallets for other exchanges shortly after one of their audits. This raised some concerns for sure, but Huobi explained that it was just normal user activity and that the timing was a coincidence. Also, Huobi has faced accusations of wash trading in the past, and even though the CEO denied it, I think it may be true given our industry's history with rampant wash trading. Finally, Huobi is registered in the Seychelles, which has relatively loose regulations, so they're not held to the same high standards as other exchanges. But overall, I still think they're decently safe. By the way, speaking of Justin's son, he's also the owner of the next exchange, Poloniex. Just like Huobi, the fact that they're owned by Justin is a pro because he can support them if need be. But that's the only positive thing I could find about them. And in terms of cons, they've gotten in big trouble with regulators from both South Korea and the US. Plus, they were hacked back in 2014, and many users hate their customer support. To make matters worse, Poloniex doesn't offer deposit protection nor insurance for user assets. So all things considered, I would personally steer clear of Poloniex. Next, we have Binance US, the US-based subsidiary of Binance.com. On the pro side, Binance US is a US regulated exchange and is operated by BAM Trading, so it is separate from Binance International and not subject to the same concerns as their parent company. Also, Binance US has a high cybersecurity rating from various sources and has never been hacked. However, there are definitely some concerns as well. For example, the exchange is less transparent about its security measures and custody solutions than other US-based exchanges. Also, the exchange's ties to Binance International have been scrutinized by the SEC. The rumor is that CZ is pushing them to cut corners when it comes to compliance, and that could explain why so many of their CEOs have left. For example, Brian Brooks resigned after only 3 months as CEO, citing strategic differences. So that's definitely not confidence inspiring. Overall, I think Binance US is safe to use, but I wouldn't put them in the highest tier of exchanges either. Next up, we have Gemini, the exchange founded by the Winklevoss twins. In terms of pros, one of them is that they are subject to strict regulation. They are a New York trust company regulated by the NYDFS, which is known for its tough oversight. Also, Gemini has never been hacked, and they have insurance for their hot wallets. Gemini is also known for its safe custody of user assets, as it fully segregates customer funds from corporate funds and operates on a full reserve basis. In terms of cons, there is no mention of proof of reserves on the website, so users have to trust that their auditors and regulators are doing their job properly. Also, Gemini's yield program, Gemini Earn, recently stopped withdrawals, but that's actually due to their partner Genesis Capital's issues and unrelated to their core exchange operation. That's why I would still recommend Gemini overall. Next, we got Bitstamp, one of the longest lasting crypto exchanges ever. In terms of pros, one of them has to be their 11-year track record. I also like that Bitstamp uses a well-known third-party custodian, BitGo, to hold customer funds. Because of that setup, they literally cannot commingle funds the way that FTX did. The platform also offers an Earn program, but it's for staking only and doesn't involve lending, so that's much safer. Bitstamp is also known for its compliance, with nearly a third of their team dedicated to compliance and risk management. They also hold licenses from some of the toughest jurisdictions such as the EU and New York State. In terms of cons, Bitstamp did suffer a hack in 2015, but they have since rebuilt their systems and there have been no more hacks since then. Also, they do not currently offer proof of reserves, but plan to do so in the future. Overall, Bitstamp is an OG exchange with a long track record, so I consider them high quality. Next, a lesser known crypto exchange that I've partnered with in the past. One major pro of BitGet is that they recently received their Merkle Tree proof of reserves so that you can go evaluate it for yourself. Additionally, they have a new $200 million protection fund for safeguarding user assets, so that's also good to see. But on the downside, BitGet is a little bit more lax on regulation, allowing almost anyone to trade on their platform. Also, they've had some issues in Singapore before, which is why their license was rescinded from there. Overall, I'll still use BitGet to trade futures, but I wouldn't leave too much of my funds on there. Next up, we have OKX, another former Chinese crypto exchange. One pro of OKX is that they have already released their Merkle Tree proof of reserves, and they're planning on getting that audited by a well-known accounting firm called Armanino. Additionally, they've obtained a provisional license from the UAE, which I like because that means that more jurisdictions will have oversight over them. Also, OKX claims to have a risk reserve fund of more than $700 million to protect users with. Now, in terms of cons, users have long complained about their lackluster customer service. Also, the exchange is based in the Seychelles, which is a shady jurisdiction that allows more fly-by-night behavior. Furthermore, there's no way to verify that the assets in their risk reserve fund even exist. So for those reasons, I consider OKX to be in the mid-tier when it comes to safety and security. Phew, that was a lot. But hold up, because we missed something super important. It's about this proof of reserves stuff. I'm just gonna say that all proof of reserves are not created equal, and they need to be taken with a huge grain of salt. It's good that exchanges are doing them, but they don't tell the whole story. Don't feel safe just because you see an exchange putting one out. You gotta dig into it more to find the nuances, and there's still a chance that something goes wrong even if they have a proof of reserve. So just keep that in mind, and don't forget to use Guardio to stay safe and protect your crypto assets. Links below.